Hi, this is Dan, and welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions podcast. And today, my guest is, all right, I'm going to try this. Ben Arzate, is that correct?
You got it right. Thank you
Holy
very much.
shit. So, what's up, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I came here because recently my book, "If Today the Sun Should Set on All My Hopes and Cares," has been re-released by 13 Days Publishing. You can get it right now on Amazon and Godless.com.
Okay. Yeah, anything you want to show, just send me after the show and I'll put it on the screen. So we'll see it in like full resolution stuff. But, all right, so what's your book about?
If Today is about a an alcoholic janitor who is divorced and trying to keep together his crumbling relationships with himself, with his coworkers, with his ex-wife and daughter, when he makes a horrifying discovery in the bathroom at the high school that he works at, and finds himself drawn into the lives of two of the students, and things get worse from there.
Do you want no spoilers, but do you want to give any hints to what he finds is so horrifying?
A dead baby.
Okay, so it's kind of like it's a more reality based but horror tinge story. Like how are you approaching this?
I personally think of it more as a dark noir story, but there's definitely some horror elements to it, especially with the janitor whose name is Rick is makes more discoveries about the students uh, who the baby belonged to, and finds that things are going to get worse, and things finds that he is powerless to stop it.
Is there kind of some evil cult involved or something along those lines?
Um,
I mean,
Major
not to give
spoilers.
spoilers if you don't want to, but
It's a spoiler what it is, but uh, I will say that it is more realistic leaning than there's no real supernatural elements in it.
okay. And how do you approach this? Do you do first person, third person, close third person? Where do you go for?
This book is written in first person. Um, it was to be honest, I wrote this when a very close friend of mine was dying of cancer, so that probably very much influenced the mood of the book, which is already not happy if you can't tell from the title.
Okay, is main protagonist that janitor?
Yes,
So you're mainly seeing it through his eyes.
yes.
And roughly how long does the book run?
The book, how long is it?
Yeah.
Uh, a little under 150 pages, I'd say.
Okay. So would you consider it a novel, a novella? I've heard recently short novel. Like some people apparently don't like the term novella. I'm not sure why.
Well, I consider it a short novel, and I guess it's technically a novella, but for me, it's there's no real difference between the two. The only thing is, like, people are more familiar with with what a novel is than a novella.
Right. Do you have other work out, or is this your first published work?
Um, yeah, I've actually had a lot of work published. My first book was published back in 2019, I want to say.
Okay.
This is let's see, two, uh, this is my like fourth or fifth novel, I believe.
Okay. What was your first novel entitled, and what did it involve?
My first novel was The Story of the Why that was published back in 2019. It's about a wannabe music journalist trying to track down a mysterious musician in Mexico, and that one leans more towards Bizarro.
Okay. And have you seen an evolution of your writing over time? Like since you first put out your first work, has it evolved in a significant way? And if so, how?
I'd certainly believe that it has. With this one, like the pro style takes a lot from James Elroy when, at his most minimalist. Um, if today, I believe it's written in a more natural uh, kind of way, the way the main character, I believe, would think.
You feel like you've become a little bit more comfortable with your expression, and so instead of like trying to mimic what you think is it the correct way to go, it's more like you feel free to express yourself.
Yes, I think my work has gotten more personal and uh, more emotional, I believe.
Okay, and if your first work was more bizarro, and this is more kind of a neo noir, what were you in between? What was your work in between?
Um, let's see. I think my one of my biggest work in between is this one, Music is Over, published by Malarkey Books. This one is sort of a spiritual sequel to the story of the Y. It's a it's about a Japanese noise musician who finds himself lost in a weird city. This one is written in more. It's definitely more bizarre horror. It's written in more of a sort of uh, nightmarish kind of way. Parts of it are very stream of consciousness.
Okay, is that something you've kept up after that? That stream consciousness focus?
I guess I actually have a few more experimental works that I've completed. I have a very experimental work that I recently completed that I am currently looking for a publisher for, which is a bit harder because experimental work is hard to place.
Right. Is it more horror oriented? Is that what you try and go for? Like at least slightly tinged by horror?
I think most of my work is pretty influenced by horror in one way or another. Before I had If Today re-released by 13 Days. Before that, it was released by Batum Books. But in between that, I did publish this collection of short stories, The Dinner Show, and Other Consumptions, which straight is just a straightforward collection of horror stories.
Okay, and what was your previous publisher before 13 days?
Batum Books.
Okay, what difference do you find between the two? I don't want you to talk bad about 13 days, but like just what do you found as a difference?
Um, One thing, 13 Days has been a bit more um, involved with the book because at one point Bainham just kind of grew a little bit too big, and the owner had a lot of personal issues, which made it difficult for her to properly promote the book.
Okay, so you feel like did you just feel like you were going to somebody new and you found 13 days, or did you directly go, that's who I got to deal with?
To be honest, they actually approached me and offered to republish it. Originally, I was just going to um, re-release it as a self-published book, but Crystal Cook of 13 Days approached me to look at the manuscript, and she really enjoyed it, so she agreed to put it out.
Oh, that's awesome. So how long was it out through Bantam Books before 13 days came along?
Um, I believe it was released somewhere in the middle of 2025, and
Okay.
that uh, Bainham Books went closed down at the beginning of 2026.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I
Pretty close.
didn't think closed. Yeah.
Yeah, a year, half a year, something somewhere like that.
Okay. And what, 13 days just approached you, or were you looking at various publishers?
Originally, I just said that I was going to self-publish it, but Crystal Cook, when she saw that, approached me to look at it, and she enjoyed it enough that she wanted to put it republish it under 13 days.
Okay. And so your latest work, you have, is it out now or just coming out?
If today the sun should set on all my hopes and cares, it was recently re-released. It was just re-released on Good Friday on this past Friday.
Okay, and what do you have in the pot coming up later on? Do you have plans on like
Uh,
a future body of work?
well, yes, I have a two books that I have completed that I'm shopping around to publishers. One of them is the experimental one that I mentioned. To talk a bit more about it, it's called The Neon Hums My Name, and it's basically a very heavily stream of conscious book that revolves around a roadside hotel that seems to exist outside of time and space. And the other one is called Silence in the Concrete Cathedral, which is sort of sort of like If Today, but less depressing. I'd say it's about um, a guy who works as a video game manual writer who goes to a cathedral to get away from all the noise in his apartment and befriends the priest there, but then the priest disappears. So the book is a mystery to find where the priest went.
Okay, and that's something you're working on now, or is something you finished that you were pitching?
I have finished it, and I am trying to uh, shop it around to publishers. It's another one that's a little bit difficult to find who to send it to because it's not quite gritty enough to send to like noir publishers. It's not weird enough to send to bizarro publishers. Um, and I think it's a little, um, it's a little too, I don't know, philosophical to just be marketed as like a pulp mystery or something like that.
Please like and subscribe before he kills again.
Okay, what is there a genre that you're like mainly trying to focus on and go for, or are you trying to explore the limits of different genres?
I'd say that I basically go, it's one of those things that sounds pretentious, but it is true. I have to go where the muse tells me to go. If I come up with an idea that's more mystery centered, I have to go there. If I, um, you know, come up with an idea that's more horror centered, I go there. More bizarro centered, I go there. So I kind of have like creative ADHD in that I jump around genres all the time, sometimes in the same book.
Okay, it's I'm sure it's a super cliche question, but what inspires you? Is it like are there movies, are there books? Is it like I don't know, do you live in the wild and like all sorts of operations visit you? What is it?
Um, well, originally, when I started writing, it was back in high school, and I was writing lyrics for like a music project. When that didn't work out, I uh, started writing poetry, and then from that, I moved into like writing short stories and novels. So, music is a big inspiration of what I do. Like the title of If Today, that comes from an old country song. Sorry the Why and Music is Over. Both of those are about musicians.
So you would say your single biggest influence is music.
I'd say so, yes.
Okay, do you travel around a lot? Is like I know when I wrote a story about the Loch Ness, I was like, I have to make a vacation to the Loch Ness to see it for myself. So I'm
Um,
wondering if you kind of approach it the same way. I see a reason for something.
yeah, this is another novel of mine, Elaine. I think this is probably my most popular novel. This is another um, horror novel. It's about a guy who's a record store owner who goes to um, a town called Elaine, Michigan, to meet his girlfriend for her mother's funeral, and then finds that she's disappeared, and then finds he can't leave the town. That one is actually named after and inspired by an ABBA song.
Okay. Yeah, I find that like especially like for instance with my first novel where the guy visits a bunch of gas stations, I was like, I should go to gas stations and talk to the people who work at them about how they operate the pumps and all that sort of stuff. Do you have kind of the same approach?
I don't directly tend to interview people, but I do like, base things off of, things that I've experienced, and people I've talked to. Um, Sometimes I will directly base it off my life experience, but sometimes I just will um, have an idea that I want to follow. So I'll just use my imagination in that case.
Okay. I know that a lot of people they hate to do this, but if you had to say, if you had to compare yourself to something like say, hey, if you like this, check out my stuff, what would you say?
Um, I would say that if one author once said that I'm like, let's see, what was it again? Yeah, one author said that I was like Tom Robbins, but a lot more darker and paranoid. Um,
Nothing
um,
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I've also been had my work compared to Ryu Murakami, which I do agree with. I really like his work. Um, I would also, in some ways, compare my work to someone like George A. Simeon, except jumping around different genres instead of just writing mysteries.
Right. Well, I wouldn't even say it's the genre so much as like the style, because like people like Stephen King's style or like Neil Gaiman's style, and like you could apply those authors to a number of different genres, but I think it's more the style of the way they tell a story than anything.
Yeah, I feel that most of my prose is mostly minimalist. I'm not a big fan of like writing like fancy metaphors or things like that. Um, I tend to write more in service of what either the imagery or the story dictates.
Would you say that a lot of yourself is like some people like to have it really hardly grounded, like there's like something called hard sci-fi where they try and make sure everything is like everything is kind of like you could compare it to like the regulation of a military unit or something like that. And there are some people that are like very wide and very open. What do you think? Where do you think your stuff falls?
I'd say I'm very open. Like if today is probably my most realistic work, uh um for me, and mostly just because I thought that the story and the mood dictated that. But for a lot of my stories, I do enjoy like writing a world that's a little bit off. It's not exactly like the real world.
Okay. Do you find that it's like a little bit more comforting than like because some people are like their comfort zone is what they're familiar with, and some people it's like they like to like explore something entirely separate from what they usually encounter.
I would say it really depends on the work because I there are some stories where I definitely had to do like heavy research to really like the story or like the novel and music is over. I've never been to Japan, so obviously I had to do a lot of research on locations and stuff to, if not get it exactly right, get it you know believably approximate.
Okay. Do you like if you write a story about Japan, do you find people who live there and you try to get some feedback from them?
Um, that would be difficult to do because I don't speak Japanese, but I actually did get an endorsement from the person that this is based on because it's based on the disappearance of a real Japanese noise musician. I don't know if he was actually able to read the manuscript because I don't know well he speaks English, but he did give my blessing to publish it.
Okay, that's awesome. What's the musician's name?
Um, Juntaro Yamanouchi, he's the lead member of the Garo Gary Gay Gay Gay,
Okay.
which is like a noise band that does a lot of like noisy kind of rock music. Um, they do a lot of like prank music too. Like one of their one of their funniest releases is the A side. It's like a single. The A side is like them screaming 1, 2, 3, 4, like they're about to do a song, and then the sound of someone having diarrhea for 2 minutes, and except it's someone having sex.
That kind of goes along with that whole Bizarro theme. Like just like weird stuff that it kind of it if you piece it all together, it tells a story, but you're like, I'm not sure what story it's telling.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to do like a story based off of them because their weird playfulness was a big inspiration to me.
Okay. All right, man. So is all of your stuff available?
Um, Almost all of it is currently available. Yes. I can't think of anything that's out of print at the moment. I try to do what I can to keep most of my work in print, even if I have to put it out myself. Um, one other thing I did want to promote is this book by Rob Ramirez, a fellow Iowa author, called Candy Shopping at the End of the World. This was originally published under the title Doomsday Day Trip, but that the company that put that out also went out of business, but it's going to be re-released by Anxiety Press later this month.
Okay. And is most of your stuff like available on Amazon? Is it through 13 days? Like I don't know how much they have.
Oh, if today was my first book through 13 days, I may hit them up for some of my future work because I do appreciate how they handled if today. Um, but most of my work is around different publishers, or it's self-published. Almost all of it is available on Amazon, and a good chunk of it is available on godless.com as well.
Would they just look for your name on Amazon to find it?
Yes.
And do you have a website or some other way people can see what's going on?
Um, I do have a Substack, which is just benarzate.substack.com. I have a sort of blog or website um, that's that I use as like a hub to keep track of everything. The URL is a bit difficult because I thought it was funny when I got it. It's something like drip drop, drip drop, drip drop, drip drop dot blogspot.com. So instead just Googling my name to find that.
Wait, well, I'll put it up on the screen, but not everyone watches. Some people just listen. So I'll also put it in like the notes on the conversation on the podcast episode. But all right, man. So don't want to keep you here all day, but do you have anything else you want to recommend that people check out? Anything else you want to say to the Sphere?
Well, first, thank you, Crystal Cook and 13 Days Publishing for re-releasing If Today and for introducing me to you. It was her recommendation that I come on here. Um, and yes, I do recommend that people check out my work on Amazon.com. If for the paperback versions, if you want an ebook, I would recommend going to godless.com for that.
Okay. All right, man. Well, again, thank you very much. And do you have anything else you'll say?
Um, I believe that's everything.